Morning everybody, this is the start of day 6. I've still not put my Fizzog on. Merlin's about to have his insulin injection. Robin is upstairs, it's too cold for her. Arthur has gone outside for a short roam. It's -2 still here and it's gone 9 AM. Cold blast coming from outdoors. He'll be in soon. He likes his home comforts. So I've got Miss M dressed anyway. So once Bubba's had his jab, I'm going to be thinking about my breakfast. And today is a couple of tablespoons of the Fen Farm yoghurt, the raw milk yoghurt with the strawberry compote, and a slice of toast because I'm a bit peckish. So the toast is 4p for the slice, and I'll have a little bit of my mate Marmite on it. So I'll see you again in a bit. We're going to make a cake today because it's the end of the week, and for me, in this household anyway, Fridays are always a big dinner. So I'll see you back later. Oh, and while I'm on the subject about the Hovis, Dan decided he wanted to eat it, so he's popped it in the freezer. It'll keep us going for a bit. I'm going to make my usual small loaf anyway. Dan took his milk salad to work for lunch today, and the rest of the cabbage rolls and tomato pasta sauce to keep him going. He had a couple of cabbage rolls last night when he came home for dinner, and the scrapings of my chilli, which was extremely hot. Ooh, and he really enjoyed that. So he's lunching on basically leftovers and a bit of salad. And then for breakfast, he had a bowl of breakfast cereal and then went out the door. He's home later this afternoon. He's not got a long day out today, thank goodness, but he went to work quite early to beat the traffic. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Yum. I'm doing some piano practice right now. This is one of the pieces I'm learning. I'm studying the works of Ludovico Einaudi. One of the pieces I've been playing for a few weeks now is Life, but this piece, Flora, is from his 2021 composition, Underwater, and it's a new piece I'm looking at. Well, it's baking time, folks. I'm going to be making this recipe from the Victory Cookbook by Marguerite Patten. The late, great Marguerite Patten. And to be honest, there's a little story here. Many years ago, when Dan was a technician at Gunnersbury Park Museum, Marguerite Patten visited and Dan made her a cup of tea. And he said she was a lovely lady and she was getting on in years then. This is called Blotkake and it's a Norwegian recipe. I hope I pronounced it well. I do have Norwegian ancestry, but unfortunately I don't speak the language. Anyway, it's a light cake smothered in whipped cream and berries. It would normally be cloudberries, but we don't have anything as extravagant as that here in Thanet, UK. So I'm using some of the frozen blueberries that we got from Farm Foods last weekend. This is a fatless sponge. It's a whisked sponge. So I'm using 4 eggs, 8 ounces or 225 grams of caster sugar. I've got vanilla sugar. I have a vanilla pod. I got the seeds out a while back and I put it in with my jar of caster sugar, so it's vanilla sugar, which is normally expensive if you buy it in the shops, but it's easy to do it at home. Also 2 ounces of plain flour. If you've got potato flour, it's another 2 ounces or 50 grams. But if you haven't, you can use more plain flour. And a teaspoon of baking powder. Well, I'm going to up the ante, and instead of using plain flour and the baking powder, which is all you would have had in 1945, I'm going to use some gluten-free self-raising flour, which already has the baking powder added to it. So let's see how it turns out. And then if all is well, I'm going to freeze half of it, because there's only 2 of us eating cake, and to eat the whole lot at once would be piggy. I'm going to freeze half of it, and the other half I'm going to top with some of the lovely cultured cream that I got from Fen Farm Dairy last Friday. Now, I was going to add a little bit of icing sugar to it. We did sample it last night because one of Dan's lovely customers gave him a mini Christmas pudding, which we shared with a small dollop of the cream. It's very rich, it's thicker than clotted cream, and it's got a lovely caramelly flavour, even though there's actually no caramel in it. So I think it will be fine as it is, because there's sugar in the cake topped with the berries. So let's get started. So here we are. I'm defrosting some blueberries. I should have got them out last night and I totally forgot. So I'm going to defrost these at room temperature. This should be enough for the cake topping. Any left over I will eat tomorrow morning with my buckwheat pancakes. It says set the temperature to 180 Celsius, which is 350 Fahrenheit, gas mark 4, and grease and line a 9-inch round cake tin. Well, I'm cutting it in half, and I think it's easier to use a square tin. So this is going to be greased and lined. I'm going to grease it with one of my butter papers that I've saved. I'm taking no chances. It didn't say whether just to line the base or not. Normally you just line the base unless otherwise instructed, but this is a fatless sponge, so I'm erring on the side of caution. And here is the caster sugar, 225 grams there. I'm going to pop that into the stainless steel bowl. Next we crack the 4 eggs into the mixing bowl carefully. Make sure you don't get any eggshell in there. If you do get eggshell, remember to get it out, simply scoop it up with a little bit of an empty eggshell and it will come out. I was very impressed years ago when I watched something on TV, which is something I don't do anymore. I don't watch TV. I think it was Saturday Kitchen. Sophie Alice Baxter was on, and I was impressed by her cooking skills. She knew how to get eggshell out of the mixture. I was very impressed. But then I think she's got 5 kiddies. She would need to be able to cook with that many kids. You can't survive on ready meals. It's not good for the health either. And it's very expensive surviving on ready meals when you've got several children, even if you are someone in the public eye like Sophie Alice Baxter. There we are. Now I can start whisking. I'm going to use Dan's late grandmother's trusty electric whisk. It's decades old and it still works a treat. We're going to whisk this until it's thick and creamy. Here's the trusty old whizzer. I tell you, the old things were built to last. Unfortunately, it's not that way anymore. Anyway, let's get in. weighed out 100 grams of Dove's Farm self-raising gluten-free flour, and now I'm going to sieve it into the bowl with the creamy egg and sugar mixture. Now then, this needs to just be folded through. I'm going to use a spatula. If you don't have a spatula though, you could use a large metal spoon or even a wooden spoon. But you need to go carefully so that you don't knock all the air out of the mixture. A good friend of mine often gets me cooking or baking items. I've got this rather attractive spatula with different measurements on. And I'm going to use this, it's perfect. You just want to fold it through. A figure of 8 is good, or just stir it round gently. You want to make sure that all the flour is fully combined. We don't want to see any flour particles. Just do it nice and gently. Make sure all that flour is picked up through the mixture. It still looks nice and aerated. There we go. That's just about right. And I'm now going to pour that into the cake tin. So here we are. I'm going to pop that in the oven now for about half an hour, or until a skewer comes out clean. Remember that oven temperatures vary. All I can say is that Dan will be so miffed that he's not at home to lick out the bowl. And without further ado, I'm going to make myself a coffee and play a little bit of the piano until the cake is ready to come out of the oven. So I'll see you in a little while. It's very slightly over. Reading the instructions, it says cut into 3 layers, but it hasn't risen hugely, so I'm not going to do that. What I will actually do is cut it in half and have 2 layers, fill it with a bit of the cream, and then top it with a bit of the cream and the blueberries, and I think that will be gorgeous for dessert later today. I think the easiest way is, if you were going to have it in layers, would be to maybe cook it between 3 sandwich tins, round sandwich tins, with the bases lined with greaseproof paper, and do it that way. I think that's a lot easier than trying to cut 3 layers, especially if you're using gluten-free flour, which tends to be a little more delicate. That would be my advice anyway. So this will cool now for a little while, and then we will turn it out onto a rack to cool completely, and we can then get started with filling and topping it with all that lovely creamy fruity goodness. My other thoughts are that I think the size of the cake pan is incorrect. I think it would be better in a smaller cake pan. I don't think there is quite enough mixture for a large cake pan. But there you go. It's the first time I've tried this recipe, but I would do it again and tweak it. It's not bad at all. I think this size you could definitely cut it down the middle like that. Maybe with the right knife you could cut it into 3 very thin layers, but even so I'm not going to risk it. So it's going to be a little bit taller than probably the original was, but I'm sure it'll be just as tasty. And now, while the cake is cooling, I'm going to make some pizza dough. We're going to have some pizza tomorrow. I'm just using 250 grams of white strong bread flour this time. So that's 20 pence for the pizza, and a little bit of cheese. We don't have much cheese left, and 1 or 2 other little bits and pieces. And I'll show you how to make pizza dough. Incidentally, you can use bread dough for making pie crusts. It halves the calories, and it was a trick I learned from the hairy bikers when they were doing their weight loss journey. I've weighed out 250 grams of bread flour. I've put the yeast one side and the salt the other. I'm also going to add a tablespoon of olive oil. And now I'm going to mix it with some lukewarm water. If you want to add a teaspoon of sugar as well, you can do, but I try not to add too much sugar to anything. Adding it all the time. I tend to eyeball everything. I find French flour needs a little less water than British flour. It's a different type of wheat, so I think it's always best to just go easy. We don't want the dough to be too sticky. That should be enough. Yeah, that's enough. Dip the dough onto a floured board and knead for a few minutes. It's not a large quantity, so I can do it with just one hand. Heel and push back, heel and push, heel and push, heel and push. And there's a lovely smooth ball. We're going to put that back in the bowl, which has been greased with a bit of oil, and cover it with a clean tea towel and allow it to prove until it's doubled in size. This might take an hour or it might take a couple of hours, but it's reasonably ambient temperature in here today, so it'll probably be about an hour. I do though tend to leave my bread doughs a bit longer. The longer you prove them, the more tummy kind. But it's 1:30 p.m. and I want to get some sunshine. I'm going to walk over to the garden centre. I need a break. Gonna make the most of the sunshine. In the meantime, I'm going to have a peanut butter sandwich. So that's 2 slices of bread, that's 8p. I think they're the last 2 slices of bread I actually have, but I don't actually need any more because tomorrow I am having buckwheat pancakes for breakfast. Happy days. I also think I'm going to have a cheeky orange. I've come to the garden centre. You can see it's still icy. It's been icy all day. It's really cold underfoot. You know, we got some bark at the weekend. This is the difference in price, so we saved ourselves a fair few pounds. We've got some farmyard manure here. 2 for £12.50. That's not a bad price. Horse compost, 2 for £10. It's okay. Good stuff. Vegetables, fruits, flowers, roses, shrubs and plants. We always know around here when there've been muck spreading because the fields let off a certain pong when we're going past. Lawn dressing. You could really go mad. We're lucky because we've got a composter, but sometimes we do need to buy some. I want to have a good look at slate and chippings. I fancy slate. That's what I fancy. But I need to talk to Dan as well. They have loads of it, look. Lots to choose from. It's a good idea to get it at this time of the year before everybody starts to bite up. They've got blue slate over there. Look at that gorgeous sunset, isn't it beautiful? It really is a nice afternoon. I got out later than I expected to due to YouTube activities, replying to people. I've just managed to get a shed load of more subscribers, so thanks you all. So I've been having to research my next shout out because I've already passed 500 in the last few hours. I've gone up from 414 to 539 subs. Wow. Lots of pots to choose from with money off. Good range of pots. These are fabulous because they don't crack under the frost. They're quite expensive though, and it's carrying them, especially when I'm on my own. It's better when Dan's with me. I wouldn't mind going for one of those or one of those. £25, that's not bad. If it lasts us, because some of the ones we've had a wee while, but they're starting to break up with the cold weather. We lost a few last winter, and no doubt we'll lose a few more by the end of this winter. More potatoes. We've already bought some now. Albert Bartlett Rooster seed potatoes. They're one of my favourites. They were my mum's absolute favourite. She often used to buy those. She purposely would go out of her way to buy the Albert Bartlett Rooster ones from the supermarket. She liked gardening, and she did a lot of plant and flower gardening, but in the end she wasn't able to do any. She was more or less confined to a wheelchair. These are camellia. My mum used to grow these. I just feel like getting one. I chose that one. Well, the beautiful red camellia, which I bought in honour of my mum, and 6 seed packets cost only $14.99 in the sale with my family card, which is a British Garden Centre's initiative, like a loyalty card really. I've done really well. Now it's time to knock back this pizza dough. and roll it out and put it on the pizza pan. Then it has another proving, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to part bake it this evening, and then when it's cool, pop it in the fridge. This is my big pizza pan. It's enormous. I'm going to have to roll the pizza dough on the table and get it on the pan that way. First I'm going to grease the pan. This isn't an ideal way of doing it, but the rolling mat doesn't stay flat. I'm going to have to roll it the other way, and then next time I use it, it might be a better job. I've had to weight it down at each corner, but if I work quickly and carefully, I should manage it. There we are. Slightly misshapen, but not too bad at all. With very little effort, actually. That was very easy. Even though I had to dodge getting any flour on the books or anything else, that took seconds. Really, really happy with that. So I'm going to let that rest again now on the stove top. It will rest there for probably about half an hour or so, maybe a little longer. And then we'll get the oven on and I'll make some prick marks in the top just to stop it from rising, because sometimes it can rise unevenly if there's no topping on. Just to start it off, and then tomorrow I can then talk to Dan about what it would like on top of his pizza. Now it's time to do something with this cake. The easiest way of getting it off the rack without breaking it is to invert it onto the chopping board. Very carefully. There we go. Perfect. I then need a sharp knife. What I'm going to do is I'm going to measure. So that's 19 centimetres. So I want 9.5 centimetres, which is there. I'm going to make a cut there. And then the same here. Then along here, so I know that that's the middle point. So what I do is cut using a clear eyeball, is to cut it here. That doesn't look too bad. Let's test. Oh, look. Doesn't that look superb? Very nice. So now what we can do is do the filling and the topping. I'll have a bit of cultured cream in there. I'm going to spread it on the top here like butter all over. And then I'm going to try and spread a bit on top, and then I'll put the blueberries on. But it's very thick, so I think what I'm going to do is put a bit more cultured cream in there, and also use some of the yogurt, the raw skyr type yogurt. I think it'll go on a lot better. So I'm going to mix a bit of that together. There we go. It doesn't even matter if there's a bit of compote in there either. Oh, that's delicious. Then I'm going to put a blob of the cultured cream in there. Remember, if your cream is too thick, you can thin it down a bit with a little more dairy. I mixed a bit of cultured cream with a bit of the raw skyr type yogurt, and that's gone on much easier. Make sure it's all covered. I've got a cake dough, so I'll get that out as well, because this cake will sit in the fridge until supper time, and the cake dough protects it from drying out in the refrigerator. That looks quite good. So now it's time to put the blueberries on. I've lifted the cake onto this nice glass plate. I broke the other one the other week. It just slipped out of my hand. I've covered this now with blueberries. I drained the blueberries. I have enough left for my breakfast tomorrow. There's a little bit of juice seeping in, but not too much. That looks really tasty. So I'm going to cover that now with the cake dough. And then after our supper tonight, we will be able to enjoy a slice. Cool, look at that. This is ready to go in the oven now. Got the oven heated, nice and toasty. It'll go in at about 210 Celsius for about 5 minutes. Look at that gorgeous pizza crust. We're really going to have a scoff tomorrow night. Tomorrow, of course, is the last day of the challenge, so it's something to celebrate. Well, the chana masala I made yesterday has been heating up in the slow cooker for the last 2 or 3 hours. It smells gorgeous. We have some rice to reheat. The rice I cooked the other day for the cabbage rolls. And I'm going to do some onion bhajis that I got the other week from Iceland. There's 16 little onion bhajis here, and I normally cook my own, but I thought I would give these a try. For £1 you can't go wrong, and to be honest, this week we haven't particularly blown the budget. A lot of the budget seems to have gone on dairy. Dan is a dairy monster. That's been the main challenge so far this week, the amount of dairy we've got through. I think we might have to have our own cow in the back garden. Here they are in the packaging, so I will get these out and into the air fryer basket. Here they are in the basket. They may take a little longer than 8 minutes because I don't have a conventional air fryer set up. I do have an air fryer, but we still need to get an extension lead so I can use the air fryer without ruining the decor in the kitchen. I've got a vintage style kitchen, so the units are painted. I will put these now in the microwave on the air fry setting H9, and I will see you when they are ready. These are the bhajis hot out of the air fryer, and I'm going to try one. They're nice and hot. They're slightly squidgy, they're not like my bhajis. They smell nice, eh? So, these are the bhajis out of the air fryer. There we have them. They're nice. Not very spicy. A slight kick. You can see the pieces of onion and the turmeric. They are tasty, and they would be perfect with a little drink. I can taste a little bit of chilli on the back, which is nice. I would probably give those 7 out of 10. I would buy them again for £1, you can't go wrong. For me, they're not mine, put it that way. But I think for £1, they're perfect. Ideal party food. So that is the Iceland bhajis. Here you go, babe.
Oh, lovely.
Well, this is a treat. We've even got lager. Dan was given some beers for Christmas. So, Dan, let me know what you think about the curry.
I'll try the chickpea one.
Another cheap eat.
It's gorgeous.
Is that good?
It's really nice.
Excellent. That rice is about 15 pence worth for the two of us. And then the bhajis, there was 16 for £1. And the chickpeas, of course, the cost was low as well. Bon appetit. Well, look at that. Clean plates, both of us. And there's plenty of chana masala left for another meal. So that will go in the freezer once it's cooled down. I think that could be called a success. So it's dessert time. Dan usually likes the cake ends, don't you, Dan?
Yes, I do.
It's a chunky old thing.
Who, me or the cake?
Both. Ooh.
Oh, looks nice.
So here we go, and I'll find out now what Dan thinks about the cake. This cake, Dan, was something that was cooked up for the victory celebrations at the end of the Second World War. It's a fatless sponge, so it's perfect for a dessert. A bit like a Swiss roll, really, the same kind of mixture. It's from Norway, and it's filled with a bit of cultured cream, and it's topped with a mixture of raw milk, yoghurt and cultured cream and some blueberries. So let me know what you think of it.
Right, let's have a taste.
I hope it's turned out all right. Is it good?
Gorgeous, yeah.
Excellent. Well, you can always have seconds if you're still hungry.
I think I might do. I will have forgotten what it tasted like, so I need a reminder.
Okay then. So there we are, another day of cheap eats. And I'll see you tomorrow for the final day, day 7. So until then, evening all.